Hello everyone, Tuesday, January the 11th, Minute Plus Meditation here. So from 1 Samuel, Hannah is in the temple praying and she's pouring out her heart to God. And Eli sees her, the priest sees her, and he concludes that she's drunk. I don't know why he would do this. Bad intentions? I don't know. It's kind of mystifying to me. But anyways, that's what he does. And he goes over and he kind of berates her. Why would he do this? Why wouldn't he ask her the question, what is troubling you, or is there anything wrong with you? We jump to conclusions all the time, and this is one of the many points we can draw from this, that we need to ask questions first and not make conclusions or not make judgments on people. So he finds out she's been pouring out her heart to God because she's suffering, she's without child. And in this society, that was the worst thing, to be without child. Children were a blessing. They were future. They were, the continuation of the family line and so on. And they should be considered a total blessing today. That hasn't changed, But society in general seems to, view children differently. So he goes and berates her, and she says, "Well, no, my lord, I am a woman deeply troubled. I have drunk neither wine nor strong drink, but I have been pouring out my soul before the Lord. And here you are," she's not saying this, "here you are chewing me out and assuming that I'm drunk." So finally he said, well, Eli answered, "Go in peace." And interestingly, at least it's not recorded in scripture, he didn't say, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that." He says, "Go in peace. The God of Israel grant the petition you have made him." Now she goes home and she will be with her husband, and she will conceive, because it will occur in God's time. Again, we know when it's going to happen. She doesn't. And that's like you and me every day. Like, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or even tonight. God knows what's going to happen. So in reading these things from Scripture, we need to sort of interiorize them and say, well, God knew what was going to happen. God had a plan for Hannah and for Elkanah. He had a plan for them, and that plan was Samuel. You and I don't know what the plan is for today or for our whole life. Even if you're married, I'm a priest, but God still has plans for us. What we need to do is pray in faith, and be faithful to the Lord every single day, and God will work out his plan in our life. He will show us all sorts of things, between now and the time, God willing, that we go to heaven. So that's the first reading, and then over to the gospel. So Jesus and his disciples went to Capernaum, and when the Sabbath came, he entered the synagogue and taught. The people were astounded at his teaching, for he taught them as one having authority and not as the scribes. And then he goes on to exorcise a demon, and they're blown away by this as well. So the point here that I would just hold out for your own reflection or meditation is the people were astounded at his teaching, for he taught them as one having authority and not as the scribes. So has this waned over the centuries? The power of the gospel. Has it waned in my life? Has it waned in your life? Are we astounded at the teaching of Jesus? Or are we just, I've heard that before. Oh, that's kind of interesting. No, that really doesn't have any relevancy in my life. And that may be, who knows, the fault of the preacher. But we all have to accept responsibility that we're not really paying attention to what, we're not disposing ourselves, we're not opening our heart to the full impact of Jesus' words. These people were astounded at his teaching, for he taught as one having authority. And he still teaches as one having authority through his word, and in fact through the church. For example, I'll just pick one example. Almost the entire world has gone by way of contraception. Almost the entire world. It's just a non-issue. There's lots of other things I could point out. But even back in 69, when this was controversial, contraception was still illegal in many drugstores and so on. Now, to talk about it being contrary to God's plan is like you belong to the Flat Earth Society. But this is part of Jesus' teaching through the church. And when it's taught with authority, many people, even if they disagree with it, they're beginning to see that this whole contraceptive mentality is just ruining people's lives. It's ruining people's lives, and there's actually so much life in the teaching on contraception. That's the whole paradox, is contraception is against life. So the church teaching that contraception, the technology against life, is actually not life-giving. The church's teaching is life-giving. It's rooted in the gospel. It's rooted in the power of Jesus Christ. That is what, hopefully people will be astounded by and begin to learn that there is a lot of wisdom here. So people were astounded by the teaching of Jesus. You and I, the only way we're going to be astounded by the teaching of Jesus is if we spend time with him in prayer and we read his word. If we immerse ourselves, soak ourselves in his word, let it really enter our life, our heart, and our soul. So the whole desire is to be in communion with him and to pray, even pray for this grace. Lord, I want to be astounded by your word. I don't want it just falling off of me like water off a duck's back. I want to be astounded by your word. I want it really transforming my life. So remember, God has a plan for you just like he did Hannah, and pray for this grace to be astounded by the teaching of Jesus. God bless you.